All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode number 32 of Uncovering Unexplained Mysteries for February 2nd, which is a Thursday, actually. It's partly due to my fault. I've been very, very, very fucking busy lately.
He's been a busy bee.
Yes, to say the least. Tried to put out the Canadian food taste testing video, but that has been delayed because yesterday... Wednesday, and the reason why the podcast isn't out early for the Patreons and all that other kind of stuff is because I was in a tattoo shop for 7 hours getting a Robert Stack tattoo on my arm.
Awesome.
Yes. Now, you might think, like, well, why haven't you posted that yet? Well, it's not complete. After 7 hours, it's not complete. Anybody who's ever gotten any portrait work done tattoo-wise knows that, especially if you get an elderly person wearing a trench coat, I mean, you can just imagine all the details that you have to draw up on something like that. So... yeah, man, I'm looking at it right now, and his face is done, and his trench coat's pretty much done. He doesn't have any hair right now, though, so it looks like he's wearing a hairnet. So I'm not gonna post it until it's done. I'm just not, because like it's just not complete right now. But man, it is just it's incredible. Every time I look at my arm, Robert Stack's on my arm doing that cheeky grin that he does, and
oh man, that's really cool.
It's incredible. There's also the planet of Saturn right below Stack that got done because this is going to be a sleeve of, it's going to be space, and then at the very top of my arm is going to be Robert Stack with, like, you know, space shit surrounding him and stuff, dude. It's going to be pretty badass when it's done, and it sucks because I got to wait until March 12th for my next session. So
wow, that's a ways away, so.
Yeah, I got to wait over a month to get this thing finished, which is really frustrating. But again, anyone who's gotten tattoos who gets large pieces knows that you really do have to, your body needs time to heal. It needs time to you know, rest and recover, and you know,
you want to make sure you pick the right tattoo artist, because you don't want to have something that's really bad that you carry around with you, that you have to go on that show Tattoo Nightmares.
Oh, I knew this guy was gonna be the right guy, because he did the piece on my wrist of the UFO and the forest and stuff, and just the detail that he put into the forest and all. I knew he was gonna be able to handle this, and it looks spectacular. I can't believe it's on my arm. Like, I never thought I'd have such a nice, like, piece of art on my body like this. So that's what I was doing yesterday.
That just proves to anyone out there who thinks that Josh might not be an Unsolved Mysteries super fan.
Yeah, if anyone thinks I'm fucking around with Unsolved Mysteries, this tattoo proves I am in fact not fucking around. I am not a charlatan. And then today, my brother's wife is going into labor at the hospital, and I'm going to have a niece probably today. So literally right after this podcast...
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Literally right after this podcast, I'm going up to the hospital to lend my support for like maybe 30 minutes, and I gotta run from the hospital to my fucking karaoke gig at Applebee's, which is another thing. I have 5 gigs a week now, 5 karaoke gigs a week, in addition to the occasional weddings I have. So yeah, my life has gotten really, really fucking busy. And then it seems like on my days off, I have shit I got to do then as well that I wasn't able to do during the week. So I guess... But
now you got more money rolling in.
Yeah, money's rolling in and all that. But I've always been a proponent of having more time over more money. If I had a choice, I'd rather have more time than more money.
I agree. If I had a choice, you know, I want to get a job. I've been trying to fill out applications. Nobody's been calling back. I guess it's just been rough to find employment here in Vancouver. So, and a lot of the jobs that, you know, I'm capable of doing are ones that are already filled, or ones that they're, you know, looking for particular people in, or jobs that people just don't give up. I mean, nowadays we have a lot of older people keeping the retail jobs that they would have quit by now. You know, they're talking about, oh, well, I paid for college when I was in school, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. And it's like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's I can't get a job because people, after, in what are the baby boomers, they won't give up their jobs at like McDonald's or Walmart or Fred Meyer or Goodwill. And so I'm left with like, what can I do right now? What jobs are there? And I'm like in the weird place where I'm almost 30. I'm 27 and going on 28. And I just don't even, like, I'm not in the place where I'm young enough to go work at those jobs where they want young people. But then I'm kind of too old, for other stuff. I'm not old enough for other stuff. It's just,
My best piece of advice for anybody looking for a job is this right here, because this is how it's worked for me my whole life. I have never applied for a job, filled out a resume, or turned in a resume, or filled out an application and turned it in, and then got called back for an interview and got the job. That's never happened. Every single job, and I've worked about like 6 or 7 jobs in my life, every single job I've ever gotten is I knew somebody who worked there.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Yeah, or this is one little trick I did one time. I was working at CVS, which one of the cases that we'll be talking about today takes place in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, which is the corporate headquarters of CVS, which I thought was funny. I was working at CVS behind the counter one day, and this lady came in, and she had a Pizza Hut tag on her shirt, and she was wearing the uniform. And I was like, hey, are you guys hiring by chance? And she's like, yeah, we need drivers, which was perfect because I wanted to be a delivery driver because that seemed like a cool job, driving around, delivering pizzas, listening to your own music and all that. You can kind of be your own boss. So I got her name, and I said, okay, cool, I'll apply. So I went up to the store, and I said, yeah, I want to apply to be a driver, blah, blah, blah. So far, pretty typical, what sets me apart from anybody else. So then I name dropped the girl who, I said, oh yeah, I know such and such. I forget what her name was. I just said, I know Kim. Let's call her Kim. Oh yeah, I know Kim. And yeah, she said that you guys needed a driver. And by me saying I knew Kim, her eyes like lit up and she's like, oh, you know Kim? Okay. Well, come in, blah, 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 for an interview. And... And just
so you didn't even really technically know.
No, I didn't know her. I just finagled my way in there, and that's the kind of those are the kind of tricks that you got to do, because I'm telling you, people, business owners are much more likely to hire people that are recommended to them.
That's a problem. That's a problem because there's a very small percentage of people who actually do know those people. I mean, it's like you're just hiring inside of a very shallow pool. It's not really fair to everyone else.
It is. It's not fair and it's fucked up. But hey, that's
the last job I did have. I did not know anybody. They actually called me back. So, but that's been a long time.
Yeah, I've never gotten.
And I think it's honestly my work history. And then I'm gonna try to go in to to job places. Like there's this place at Goodwill, you can talk to a counselor or something over there, job counselor, and see what I can do there. Maybe there's some tweaking to do with my resume or something. It's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating for me, especially when I truly do believe I got let go from my previous job for bullshit reasons, and it just makes me feel like what is wrong? Is there something wrong with me? Like I can't keep a job. It's extremely frustrating.
Well, I can tell you in short, it's probably your work experience. You probably don't have the experience that they're looking for whatever.
Well, exactly. I know, but some of it's like people are just lazy nowadays. They don't want to train people.
Yeah, I mean,
I've worked my ass off. If somebody gave me a chance, it's just nobody really seems to be willing to give me a chance. So what am I going to do? I guess I'm going to have to not have a job for a couple months. Fingers crossed, hope I get accepted by WC Vancouver, because I actually did pay the $50 for an application fee. Not really application. It's well, actually, yeah, you technically are applying for the college. So, I mean, that alone is insane to me. That you have to pay an application fee just to apply for the college.
That's ridiculous.
So we'll see what happens from there. And I can't really do anything with PSU because I haven't gotten my diploma back. Technically haven't got my a transfer degree because I technically have it, but I haven't got the physical thing yet from Clark. I won't get that until the end of March somewhere. So I'm just kind of stuck in purgatory, and my parents are like trying to push me to get a job, and I'm trying, and I can't. It's not happening.
Not having a reliable form of transportation is something that's hurting you as well, because a lot of people will ask you that in the interview, do you have a reliable form of transportation?
I do. I mean, to be honest, if I work closer, if there's a job that's around where I am at,
yeah, but see, that within walking distance, that limits you right there.
Well, I understand that, but I wouldn't be planning on working 2 hours away to begin with.
Well, no, not 2 hours away, but like 30 minutes away, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are other places I can work. I mean, anywhere in the mall I can technically work because the buses go there, and honestly, by the time whatever store closes, I can still take the bus home. So there's a lot of places actually that I can work by bus. It's just, for some reason, I'm just not getting a chance.
Who knows? I'm not a hiring manager, thank God. I never will be. Shit. I think
it's my work history. But we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna take it day by day, I guess, and hopefully my volunteer guy gets back to me and gives me some work because I volunteered with him before at a nonprofit. It's a public access show, which is like a nonprofit sort of political kind of advocate show. It's called Flying Focus. And I already produced like 6 shows. And my stepdad is willing to pay me each hour I work for them. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, $20 an hour is not bad. So if I can work a decent amount of hours at the volunteer thing, then that could be, my job until I get back to school. But anyway, so that's our drama there.
Yeah.
Chat. Dramatic chit chat.
That's our chit chat that people either love or hate. But actually, the more reviews I see, the more people actually like it. Which,
as long as it's not politics, and trust me, we're not going there.
No, I'm not going to talk about politics anymore because I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. It's literally like trying to shoot fish in a barrel. There's no point in even talking about it.
Exactly. So, but the next, there is definitely something worth talking about with our first case. Our first case is one from the first season of Unsolved Mysteries, which is available on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
I would really like them to get on it with the second season already. Chop, chop. You were pretty quick with the Dennis Farina shit, if I remember correctly. They had like the first 2 seasons already up, like immediately, the Dennis Farina thing. I'm like, come on now, season 2. I always look on Amazon. The reviews for this new version of the show are 5 stars all across the board.
I think fucking should be. I mean,
this is a pretty big hit for Amazon Prime right now. So
I wonder if the executive producers, I wonder if they go through and see that, and maybe it's finally clicking in their head that, oh, maybe people don't want some revamped, rehashed pile of shit.
No.
Maybe they actually genuinely enjoy the show we did in the 80s and 90s, warts and all, and maybe they have a special fondness for these cases and how the show was written and the music, and maybe they just liked the show how it is and that's all they want. I don't know. The thing we've been saying for the past, I've been saying for the past fucking 10 years, maybe, just maybe, that's starting to click in their heads that that's what the case is. I mean, Jesus, Lord in heaven. Yeah. I don't understand.
So, I don't get it either. But I'm glad they finally realized that because they were sitting on a gold mine for decades. So anyway, the first case is from season 1. I believe it's from episode 3. And it's one that always stood out to me because I thought this was just a really creepy episode. I think the music was in top form here. That really added to the eerie mood and atmosphere. And this isn't as creepy as the last segment we're going to be talking about, but it's still pretty creepy. And honestly, I was shocked by how bloody this segment was.
Oh yeah, I know. That was when I first saw it, because like I hadn't seen that segment until I watched the Amazon Prime reissues, and yeah, when I saw that scene, I was like, good God, like this was on like primetime television, and this was this in the 90s. What, which is
late 80s actually. 80s.
Oh, 80s. Oh, shit.
This was 89 or 88, I think.
Because, now, especially after when I did that episode on my YouTube channel reviewing those ghost shows, now you can watch a show like Ghost Adventures and stuff like that, and they'll show these, like, brutal reenactments of, like, people getting stabbed in the neck and shit. And now, violence in America is just, like, old hat, like, nowadays.
Yeah, but for some reason, like, because I grew up and I learned about how they did the effects, and I'm a huge fan of practical makeup effects, and I love reading about it. I love seeing documentaries about it, and I can tell, okay, that's an effect. But when I watch actual videos of people like bleeding or accident videos or surgery videos, it's really hard for me to watch. But I can watch like all the gore in movies in the world, and it doesn't affect me. So that means I'm not really desensitized by actual violence.
Did you know that there's a subset of people out in the world who literally go to YouTube and all they watch is videos of people getting their pimples popped and their cysts popped?
I know.
Mike, what is going on?
I can't watch that either. I don't know. I've heard people say that it gives them a sense of relief or something.
Oh my God! What? Like, no.
That's if the show went on way too long and they ran out of mysteries. That's the kind of thing.
They just start popping cysts and zits and stuff on the
No, I mean, they talk about why people like this.
Oh.
It's an unsolved mystery why people, like this. God, that's just making me squeamish just thinking about that right now.
Disgusting.
But anyway, and what happened to Doreen Picard is pretty disgusting here as well. So Doreen Picard, 22 years old, and Susan LaFerte, 27, who Josh endearingly likes to call
Susan LaFarte.
So she
no French.
So she lived in an apartment complex in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Doreen was studying for a career in childhood development, and she lived alone upstairs in the apartment. Susan was a housewife and an active member of the Neighborhood Watch. She lived with her husband Ernie and her 2 children. This is just random, but I remember when I was a kid, whenever I'd see the Neighborhood Watch sign with like the guy in the shadows or the hat, it would like scare me. Like that wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was protected or safe with the Neighborhood Watch signs.
Damn, what kind of Neighborhood Watch signs do you guys have in Vancouver? Ours don't look like that.
It was in Tigard. It was in Tigard, Oregon. But yeah, I totally remember this. It was like this shadowy guy with like a hat on, and then there's like a no sign. But like, I guess that's what they're supposed to say. Oh, no strangers, no shadowy people. But as a kid, I'm still looking at this sign, and I'm like, it's a shadowy man.
So you had Michael Jackson circa Smooth Criminal era on the Neighborhood Watch sign, basically.
Yeah, basically, or some gangster from like the 30s or something. Anyway. So she lived with her husband Ernie and their 2 children. On February 19th, 1982, Doreen began packing to move out of the apartment. That afternoon, Susan had some grub with her sister Carol in Susan's apartment. At 1:30 p.m., 2 of her friends arrived there. Carol recognized one of them, but not the other. Susan told her that they were planning to look at puppies that Susan was selling. She asked them for a few minutes until they got out of there. Carol left around 1:45 p.m., about 10 minutes later. And sometime after that, Susan went downstairs to the basement to do the laundry, and Doreen was also doing laundry at the time. And at some point, an unidentified man came into there and brutally beat both of them with a lead pipe.
Ugh.
At 3:20 p.m., Doug Heath, who also lived in the apartment complex, discovered Susan's 3-year-old daughter, Nicole, unattended in the hallway, locked out of her apartment. When he asked where her mother was, she told him that she was in the basement. He then discovered Susan and Doreen's bodies and called the police. Doreen died from the attack, and Susan suffered serious head injuries that left her in a coma for 30 days. When she awoke, she had absolutely no memories of the attack on her, and Doreen, in fact, she could not remember anything after December 31st, 1981. But Nicole was the only witness that could describe the assailant. Can you imagine that?
There's a few things here that, like...
daughter who saw somebody get murdered.
Yeah, like that is just... that... I can't... that's just unimaginably awful. Like, the kid... you know, okay, it's like what we were talking about, I think, on another podcast, where it's like, as a kid, you don't really understand what's going on, but then when you get older, the memories make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, man, when that kid gets older, or, well, she is older now she's probably a woman, probably married with kids, but, I mean, that, dude, that's some PTSD, like, just awful, horrendous thing that she had to witness as a kid.
Like anytime you go down to, if there's like a basement that had a laundry, you know, set up in there, like a washer and dryer, it just bring back like horrific memories.
My heart goes out to that girl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awful. I mean, and then like the whole like selling puppies, you know, could there have been a more innocuous like way for these people to like infiltrate, you know, like selling puppies, if anyone wants some free puppies. You know, it's just like...
the payment is a lead pipe over the head.
Yeah. Like, it's like, I don't know, you hear about this shit in movies, you know, you don't think this is real, but no, this was a real case. It's crazy. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like the whole thing where you don't think about, you just think it's a movies thing with the van and the stranger and then, hey kid, here's some candy. But,
yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, where do you think the movies get those tropes from? You know, they get it from these real life horrific cases.
So Nicole was the only witness that could describe the assailant. She told her grandmother Florence that she had let him into the building, believing that he was her mother's friend. She then said he went downstairs and then returned several minutes later, locking her out. And before he left, she saw the man with a lead pipe and a white rag with bloodstains in his back pocket. Now, the reenactment did a great job reenacting all of this. This is where the bloodiness comes from, which looks like it's something out of a slasher film from the same era. I was just like, that's a lot of blood for a show that I think aired on primetime on regular cable on network television.
Yeah,
it's a lot of blood.
It was notably brutal compared to most Unsolved Mysteries segments, and you can actually go and watch it. That's the beauty.
I think the censors might have gotten on them after that.
Yeah, like, hey guys, let's watch it there on the brutal death scenes. And then not only that, it was how the body was positioned.
Yeah.
Like, she just laying lifeless between the washer and dryer, the woman, and there's just blood all over the washer and dryer, and her body's just, like, it was just tossed there, like such an unnatural position.
Like it's just another piece of laundry.
Yeah, like, it was just, God, it was I mean, it was well done how they set it up to convey the horrificness of it, but at the same time, it was sobering to think that, like, that's how it actually happened.
Yeah. And then the shot of just from the killer from his the legs down, you know, just from his legs, because you just saw his legs. He's wearing these jeans, and then he has the towel or whatever, the rag with the blood stains on it, and he also is wearing like plaid or something, and he has the pipe in one hand. Like that image just gives me chills. Because it's just like pipe in one hand. It did a great job reenacting what the girl probably saw.
Yeah.
But the authorities were unable to use her testimony as evidence because of her young age. The killer left the murder weapon, the lead pipe, hidden in the house. I guess he's a fan of Clue. It was found 4 days later.
Colonel Mustard found the lead pipe.
Authorities believe that the killer may have chosen the victims after reading one of their advertisements from the paper, either puppies for sale by Susan or an apartment for rent by Doreen. Authorities do not know if the killer was a close friend of the victim, an acquaintance, or a complete stranger. And just to correct people, I did not know what Josh was talking about with the puppies thing. Like, I thought it meant, the killer was advertising puppies. So that's why I made that gag I made earlier. Now that I know that's not the case, then disregard that, because that's pretty fucked up on my part.
Yeah, I was like, man, Mike's really going for it this week, and then I just let you go, man. I just let you go on your...
So, really, the payment should have been money, not a pipe to the head. That's not what should have happened, or just take the puppy. I wonder what happened to the puppies then. Did they keep them? Did they sell them? What did the puppy see? What happened?
Now you're starting to sound like you work for PETA, because like they actually care more about animals than human life. So they'd be like, well, what happened to the puppies? Disregard the humans who died.
No, I definitely do care about the humans. I'm just wondering. Now
PETA's gonna like throw fucking animal carcasses on us if we're walking down the street, and they're gonna scream killers at us. You killer!
Following the murder, Doreen's parents have conducted their own informal investigation into their daughter's murder. In the months following the murder, they received several anonymous phone calls telling them to stop investigating their daughter's case. The callers have threatened to hurt family members and burn down Doreen's father's repair shop.
Damn, what the fuck is wrong with people in this world?
I know. Like, that stood out to me, too, because I was like, holy shit, like, you think it's over, but no, it's not. You know, it might be the killer, like, saying, stop investigating this, or I'll keep making your life miserable, because I'm an asshole.
Or he's just bluffing, he's just bluffing and he's scared.
Or it's just somebody fucking with them. That's happened, too. It's like this special bulletin segment I saw on season 8, some of the segments of season 8, and one of them was like this guy who murdered someone, this woman, and then he went in and like dug up her headstone and like left it on a car, a hood somewhere, and desecrated the headstone and all of that, and he was calling the parents and calling the cops and basically saying, I'll do it again and blah, 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 and I killed her and all this shit. And it was just like, God, why wasn't this an actual segment? Why was that just a special bulletin segment?
Psychopaths, man.
With Keely Shea Smith. I think that's who it is.
Yeah, Keely Shea Smith, yeah.
She's nice to look at, I'll admit it.
She was hot as hell back in the day. She's married to Pierce Brosnan, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
007. So anyway... her family, Doreen's family, and the police refuse to give up on the case and will not stop until it's solved. Meanwhile, Susan, who was attacked and survived, is fearful that the killer will return to hurt her. She also hopes to one day remember him so that she can put him behind bars. Nicole said the killer had a mustache. He wore a hat with a visor, jeans, and sneakers. What is the visor? Or what? He wore a hat. Because hats have what? I mean, what other kind of hat? I guess maybe one of those like old school fedoras or something, or trilbies. But most of the time, a hat it has a visor. I just thought it was kind of funny to be that specific. It was a hat with a visor.
He was wearing a shirt with sleeves,
jeans and sneakers, and was somewhat taller than her father. However, the description may not be accurate due to Nicole's age at the time of the attack. Yeah, the case aired on the May 18th, 1988 episode. And Susan asked for her identity to be concealed during her interview. Well, there was an update, I believe, that said that somebody was caught, but then we have an update that's honestly not... it's pretty distressing and pretty disappointing. So this case is unresolved because in 1992, Raymond Beaver Tempest, what a name.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's an amazing name.
Was arrested and charged with Doreen's murder and Susan's attack after it was discovered that he and Susan were allegedly having an affair. He had actually been a possible suspect from the beginning, but the authorities did not have any evidence to substantiate the rumors at the time. After the Unsolved Mysteries episode aired, authorities received tips that led to several key witnesses. Some of the witnesses came forward, saying that Tempest had bragged about the murder and that he would be able to cover it up. As a result of these witnesses coming forward, Tempest was reinvestigated and later arrested. A witness placed a maroon sedan, a marine. I don't know what a marine is. Oh, I know what a marine is, but it's not a color. It's not a color for a car. At least I don't think so. Oh, maybe blue marine or something.
Aquamarine.
Aquamarine.
That's definitely a color.
It's an underwater marine. It's a special version of marine. A witness placed a maroon sedan at the scene, which Tempest was allegedly driving around the time of the murder. He also could not come up with a solid alibi for the time of the attack. Authorities believe that he and Susan got into an argument that turned violent when he began viciously beating her. They believe he killed Doreen because she walked in on the attack. They also believe that his brother, Gordon, a police officer at the time, helped cover up for his brother by wiping off fingerprints and tampering with other evidence. In April of 1992, Beaver Tempest...
And his Tempest and his friend Galaga and Defender.
Yeah, was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 85 years in prison. I'm thinking of Beaver is like Leave It to Beaver, that old show. Can you imagine if Beaver grew up and was like some sociopathic just killer?
Boy, howdy, lady. You sure are pissing me off. I'm going to bash your head in with this lead pipe. Beaver? What did we tell you about that? Sorry, Dad.
So Beaver Tempest is convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 85 years in prison. Gordon was convicted of perjury in connection with the case. But in 2014, Tempest approached the New England Innocence Project for help in seeking out DNA testing in an effort to clear his name. It was suggested that his arrest and conviction were the result of a coercion of the witnesses by corrupt police officials and the overzealousness of prosecutors. Tempest claims that the Woonsocket Police and A.G. James Ryan and Randy White both knew who had really killed Doreen Picard, but they had covered up facts to protect the guilty and convict the innocent. Tempest claims that the real killer is a man named Donald DeGessie, who died in 2011. According to Susan's relatives, after Doreen's funeral, Nicole identified DeGessie as her mother's attacker. After she awoke from her coma, Susan apparently identified DeGessie as her attacker, but she later claimed to not remember the assailant. However, the request in 2014 was not accepted by the court, and in 2015, the issues were presented in court. To date, DNA testing is inconclusive. 2 of the hairs found in Doreen's hand did not match Tempest, but according to investigators, they could have came from the laundry room floor. In July 2015, a state superior court judge decided to vacate Beaver Tempest's conviction based on the unreliability of witnesses and alleged prosecutorial misconduct. Tempest has been released on bail while the state debates on whether or not to retry him for Doreen's murder.
So the bottom line is an innocent person was killed for seemingly no reason, and through a bunch of legal red tape and mumbo-jumbo, the killer or justice has not been served, I should say, from what it sounds like. And yeah, that's a real fucking shame. That
is. I mean, I think it wasn't Beaver because of the daughter recognizing DeGessie, and then you have the whole thing where the mother woke up and out of her coma and recognized him as well, even though later she denied. But I that seems pretty open and shut to me. But he passed away before he was able to go to trial.
I don't know. You got to think, though, someone who had to live their whole life with the name Beaver probably has a lot of pent-up rage from all the bullying.
Well,
so,
yeah, exactly.
You know, I
mean... It could have been him as well, but I don't know.
Your Honor, can we offer into evidence Exhibit A, his stupid fucking name? I'll allow it. You may proceed. This person has clearly been bullied his whole life and has a lot of anger issues because his parents were dicks and gave him a stupid name. So we you know, this is probably the reason why this happened. Not saying it was right, but you know, he's probably the guy. I don't know. In all seriousness, I have no idea. And you know,
they didn't actually update it that well. Now that I think about it, on the new not technically old, but the first season episode on Amazon Prime, like the update they have for this case, I don't think they even talked about the DeGessie guy. They didn't talk about him at all.
Well, they never said how good the updates were going to be. They just said there were going to be updates.
Yeah.
And you know, I wonder how they get these updates. They track these people down, you know, like do they like how
probably
much?
Use the wiki.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, We used the Wikia out the ass. I think we would have caught it by now if they used the Wikia for the updates.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, hey, that's exactly the same.
And then we can sue them for copyright, even though
No,
I have nothing to do with
not
the Wikia.
really. The Wikia is like a free thing anyway.
Burst my bubble, Mike. Why don't you?
Burst our bubble.
I just want to sue somebody now because, you know, I've been threatened, you know, legally by them. So now
So like the Weird Al song?
Yeah. Obscure Weird Al reference there that like 2 people are going to get. But I'm I'm one of those 2 people, so that's a good thing.
Do you know how the song goes?
Yeah. Sue, I'm gonna sue you. It's like a Rage Against Machine pastiche.
Yeah.
So anything else to say about this case besides like the hallmarks of the case being it was really sad and shitty that the daughter had to experience any of that, which I know as she got older, she's gonna like her brain's gonna be able to process kind of what she was really seeing, and I feel probably the most sorry for her.
Well, also the fact that it seems like the killer actually was not actually caught and brought to justice.
Yeah, which happens, you know, after doing this podcast and really like
you realize it happens more often than you think.
Oh my god, it happens all the fucking time. And you know, you watch the shows like Cops and all these investigation shows, and like the guy always gets caught, and I think they plan it out that way.
Yeah, they only talk about cases where, oh, if it's a cold case, all right, but they eventually solve it.
Yeah,
and I can see why, because it's like, who really wants to watch, you know? But Unsolved Mysteries, that's kind of what separated from those other shows, is because they weren't afraid to talk about some unsolved case in order to bring some light to it and, you know, make people aware of it and hopefully solve it.
Yeah, that's what my mom. That's why she never liked the show. She's like, "Why do you watch this show? They don't even solve any of the mysteries. They leave you hanging at the end of every episode." And I'm like,
"Well, that's not necessarily true, but okay."
It's not necessarily true, and there's just so many reasons why I like the show. Besides, I'm not just. I mean,
and that's the point. I mean, it serves a purpose, and I think that it definitely serves a purpose that kind of is missing today. I totally think this is a show that in whatever format you decide to bring it back could easily still be successful today. Easily.
It's hard to say, because if they brought the show back realistically today with the modern audience who doesn't
what
know...
I'm saying is not modern, not trying to appeal to millennials, not trying to appeal, well, technically the old show is kind of millennial anyway, but not trying to appeal to the kids. That's not what this show is for, and that's never what this show was about to begin with. Even though there were kids like me and you that grew up watching the show, it wasn't made specifically for us. So I could just take advice from the fans and have it be a love letter to the original series. Have it be as close as you can to the original show, and none of the quick cut, flash cut editing. None of the, what is it, that cliche stock sound effect that you hear in every reality show nowadays.
The stabs, the musical stabs.
And the or whatever the fuck, the one that made you want to shoot yourself in the ghost episode. What was that again?
Oh,
there's a specific thing, a slide thing or something.
Are you talking about that marimba music? That
yes.
Bing, bing, bing,
yes.
Bing.
For fuck's sake.
You know what I'm talking about with that, though, right? Like, you've heard that in, like, every...
That's even in, like, a show on Animal Planet called My Cat from Hell. Like, it's just...
Dude, it's
or whatever, is trying to be, like, dramatic or whatever, and it just is the same shit every time.
It's like a soft drama kind of music that they do. But anyway, no one's even going to know what we're talking about unless they saw my Ghost episode, which you should go out and see, by the way. In my YouTube channel is youtube.com.
Yeah, it's really good, actually.
youtube.com/dancingwithghosts.
Yeah, bring the show back, have the same music, maybe get Robert Stack's son, or get someone like Lance Henriksen, or someone like that, or Peter Weller, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they could definitely do some good services as far as, you know, like catching people nowadays, like, you know, helping solve unsolved cases and all that.
If it's just an Amazon and Prime original, I'd be fine with that too.
It's just so weird because the climate is just so different now than how it was back then. I honestly think we are in the stages of nobody knows what the fuck at this point, honestly.
Yeah.
I think we're at that stage. I think that everyone is just trying what they can. They don't know how long it's going to last. Who knows how long Netflix is going to last? Who knows how this is a brand new form of getting video content to people. I think
Netflix is going to last for a long time. It's
hard to say though.
Huge hits lately.
Huge
hits.
When Unsolved Mysteries first premiered on what was it? Not CBS, but on NBC.
Here's the problem with Unsolved Mysteries. Why it ended? They changed the air date. They changed the air date and the time, and that wasn't in the film. That did not help the show.
Well, the point
and
that I was
then the
trying
ratings
to...
went down, and then it went to another network, and then they changed it too much.
The point that I was trying to make is that when Unsolved Mysteries came on the scene in the late 80s, early 90s, they were jumping into a world that had been time tested for like 30 years, the medium of television. So
yeah.
it was completely ready and able to have a show like that on the air at that time and have it be successful.
Well, what I'm talking about is look at the success of shows like Making of a Murderer and things like that. I mean, you could easily do Unsolved Mysteries again, and have similar success. It already has a very fervent and strong fan base. I don't know if I said that word correctly.
Fervent,
but it's a very strong fan base, a very big
agree.
one.
I just look at
don't fuck up like you did with Dennis Farina.
I just look at other like movie revamps and like trying to kind of bring the magic back, and how it's never quite the same.
But I'm just saying, if you want to do it right. You can do it.
Yeah, but
look at remakes from the films like from the 80s, like John Carpenter's The Thing or The Fly by David Cronenberg, remakes of some old 50s movies. Those brought back the magic that those films had, and actually, honestly, in my opinion, were better films. Now, this new Unsolved Mysteries, if they do it, would never be as good as the old show. But I think there's a gap right now, and Unsolved Mysteries, a revamp of it with care and time and fans of the show working on the show, I honestly think would fill that gap.
Yeah, I think the main thing is it's all about the host. It's all about their narration quality.
They need to actually do reenactments with actors again.
They need to not be afraid of the writing style, like, well, we can't write it like this because that's not how people talk now. Because if you listen to a lot of Robert Stack's dialogue, it was very a lot of the the stuff they wrote for him to say was very kind of proper and like high English. It wasn't this kind of everyman way of speaking or whatever. It gave the show a level of dignity and sophistication. Robert Stack brought a level of sophistication to the show, and I feel like that. I feel like people out in Hollywood feel like that kind of technique only works to draw in older crowds, and I feel like they think that it scares away millennials, but they assume too much about millennials.
Exactly.
They assume way too much.
Most millennials are the people who are watching season 1 right now on Amazon Prime.
Exactly. It's not the old timers who watched it when it actually aired on TV are probably 20 to 30% of the people who are watching the ones on Amazon Prime. The kids who grew up watching it, probably 70% of the people who are watching it on Amazon Prime. So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely...
And probably most of the people are listening to this podcast right now, and thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
So, speaking of kids and Unsolved Mysteries, here we have the next segment, which Josh will take and run with it.
Give me the segment. Okay, and there it is. Thank you, Mike. Ooh, it's a little heavy. A little heavy. Help me. Okay, all right, got it. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to just set it down on the table here. There it is. All right, this segment was actually a fan request from way back in the day. I'm personally, for most of my selections here coming up, I'm gonna burn through the rest of these requests because I still got, if I check my list here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got like 7 requests, probably a little more if I check to the Patreon. That I just want to get through them because if people want to hear us talk about them, I want to talk about them. You know, this show.
Yeah, so do I.
This show's for you. You listening right now. I'm pointing right at you. Some people don't like being pointed at, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm pointing at you and saying this show is about you. I'm basically poking you in the forehead with my index finger right now as I'm exclaiming that this show is for you. So let's talk about Wendy Camp.
Psychic finger pointing.
Yes. Wendy Camp, good choice, by the way, whoever the hell suggested this. I don't remember who suggested it. I just remember...
That's not... Well, whoever the hell suggested
does that not sound endearing enough, Mike? Should I have changed my tone a little bit on that one? But no, it's a great case. I'm glad they pointed it out. So, at the center of all the controversy here is Wendy Camp. She, her daughter Cynthia, and her sister Renee were last seen in May of 1992. The truth remains tangled in a barrage of charges and countercharges, child abuse, kidnapping, and murder. It all began rather innocently in 1987. Wendy was divorced and her daughter was less than 6 months old. Wendy was working at an ice cream parlor in Edmond, Oklahoma, when she fell in love with a coworker named Chad No. Not Chad Yes, but Chad No.
Well, she should have, paid attention to his last name and took the advice and said no. Chad No.
She should have gotten with Chad Probably, not Chad No. Chad Perhaps would have been a
Chad
good guy.
Maybe.
Chad Maybe. We are so stupid. Wendy's mother was quoted as saying, they hit it off fairly quickly and started a relationship, and then she got pregnant with the second child, because she already had Cynthia, and he convinced her to marry him, and they got married, and about 3 to 4 weeks later, before that, Jonathan was born, the second kid. Just 1 month before Jonathan's birth, Wendy developed a debilitating case of multiple sclerosis, which disintegrated both her health and her marriage. Way to stick to it through sickness and health there, douchebag. Chad, by the way, not her.
Well, his last name is No, so he's like,
yeah,
no.
No, he was like, no, sorry, I got to stick with my family name here. You got MS, that's a big no. Anyway, Wendy was hospitalized for nearly a year, which I can't even begin to imagine how shitty that would be. Chad filed for a divorce and was awarded primary custody of Jonathan, their kid that was born.
That is why. Well, because she has MS, I guess. That's the only reason why. Yeah, because this guy seems like a great parent.
Oh, yeah, no, this guy's kind of a douche. And he's quoted here as saying, of course, along with the MS, I didn't think she'd be able to help me raise my child. And instead of having one child to deal with, I thought, I'd have 2 children that I'd have to deal with, referring to Wendy as a child, I guess, with her MS. So he said, I thought it'd be best to get a divorce and raise a child on my own. Wendy was too ill to even contest the court's decision about that, which sucks for her,
Yeah.
that you're that
Because
sick.
then it's brought out that this No guy, he doesn't say no to drugs.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. For 2 years, she labored through physical therapy just so she could recover simple basic skills like eating and walking. During this time, friends introduced Wendy to Leon Kemp. They were married in 1990 and set up housekeeping in Oklahoma City. Now, this guy, Leon, he is your classic 90s Unsolved Mysteries guy. Mustache, big-ass glasses. I mean, this is the kind of guy you want to see on Unsolved Mysteries. Just your classic, just huge glasses that are only just take up the whole length of your face that were really hot in the 90s. Just unashamed mustache. Just classic dude, Nothing ironic about him. He's
classic Unsolved Mysteries guest, and the right kind of guest. The one that just it's the type of guest you're used to, and the type of one that makes you kind of it makes you feel at home. Like I'm watching Unsolved Mysteries.
The nostalgia kicks in, and you're like, okay, I'm on board with this.
Exactly. Unlike some guests, like this one guy, I have to mention this because it is hilarious. It's on this investigator segment from season 8, and they were investigating the guy who supposedly committed suicide. He was on the Clinton administration.
Yeah.
And they were doing the handwriting experts.
Mm-hmm.
One of the handwriting experts comes out, and he's not your typical Unsolved Mysteries guest. He comes out, and he's got like big 80s hair. He's got like hair like he's like in Motley Crue, like he's Nikki Sixx or something. And he's a handwriting expert. It's hilarious.
Well,
this guy walking out, and he's got like this big fucking hair, the mullet and everything.
Maybe he's a handwriting expert.
Oh my god!
Maybe
it looks like.
Maybe he's a handwriting expert, and he just got off tour. I mean, maybe that's something.
It looks like he walked out of the 80s. It does not look like it does not look like it's from. This is like a segment that was like close to the 2000s, like the late 90s, and he looks like he's from like 86 or 87 or something.
Oh, you make fun of
like
this
in the
guy,
middle of the
but he can
hair metal era.
You make fun of him, but he can probably play "Eruption" by Van Halen note for note. So I mean, that's really nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to where I was talking about here. Her and her new husband Leon Sepp housekeeping in Oklahoma City. I'm sorry, I'm out of it today.
Hey, yeah, I lived in Oregon and I lived in Oklahoma City. So.
Oh wow, that's true. You have. Oh, so you might be able to shed a little light on some of these locales that they talk about here. Wendy's daughter, Cynthia, lived with them, with Leon, her new husband, and Wendy. And by all accounts, Leon proved to be the loving father that she needed. As Wendy's condition improved, she asked her ex-husband, Chad, for visitation rights with her son, Jonathan. At first, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Jonathan spent a few weekends with Wendy and Leon in 1990. Then, according to Then, according to Wendy's mother, Chad's family began to sabotage the visits. Quoting Wendy's mother here, she would call and make an appointment to see them, and she would go there, and they would not be there. And then they kept moving and getting different phone numbers, so it was very hard to get a hold of them. So these people were ducking Wendy.
Yeah. Also, in talking about Chad, I don't know if you're going to talk about this later, but
Probably.
This is something I saw on the Wikia, where apparently Wendy's family believed that Chad might have given drugs to Wendy while she was pregnant, which brought upon the coma that she was dealing with around this time.
Oh, yeah, they never mentioned that on the show.
So.
Well, Chad remembers all this differently. According to Chad, she was allowed to visit him whenever she wanted, and there was never really any hard feelings up until the time my mother informed me that he was being sexually molested. Then the visits were cut off. How many times at this point on this podcast, on this show, has the crazy bitch-ass grandmother or mother, whatever, alleged some kind of molestation, satanic ritual, some kind of crazy... Do these old ladies have anything better to do in their lives than to stick their noses in their family
and then just say
drama? It's the devil.
I don't know. Perhaps.
I
Satan.
mean, good Lord. I mean, don't you have a bingo game to go to, Granny? Don't you have some sweaters to knit or something like that? I mean, good Lord.
Church, all these church ladies over here.
Like, this is like the third time now that the grandmother has interceded in fucking up a family. Yeah. So Chad cuts the visits off from...
It's so frustrating because you're like, that's somebody's mother. That's like the mother of, the person who's having their family torn apart. It's like, why? Like, what is your deal?
As it normally happens in families, you meet a girl, you get together for a while, and then you meet their family. And as long as you treat the girl right, or the guy right, and as long as you are together in a harmonious relationship, their parents love you. But the second you spite that person in any way, and you guys are no longer connected, whether you're not dating anymore, you're not married anymore, the daughter's family just hates you like Hitler. Like, you're a poison. Yeah. Like, you are just the worst piece of shit ever. So this does not surprise me.
No, it doesn't. I guess this isn't as surprising as, like, the Baskin case, where it's the mother, like, the actual mother of the woman who's had these kids who decides to take her kids.
Well, there's another case coming up that I've been wanting to talk about of Jared Peters, where it's literally the same thing. The grandmother proselytized
That's always shocking.
this kid.
You're just like...
And showed him demonic imagery on... we'll get to that one, folks.
Yeah, we'll get to that
That's
one.
one we're going to get to. So Chad cuts off the visits for them to see Jonathan. And who is the molester? Apparently Leon, the new husband, for which he says there was no molestation whatsoever. And the idea of them thinking, it just tore me up inside. I was mad. Rightfully so, Leon. I would be mad too.
I'd be pissed.
The visitation squabble had escalated quickly, with Chad's family now accusing Leon of criminal sexual abuse. However, the charges could neither be proven or disproven. The court cited Chad for contempt and ordered the visits with Wendy and Leon to be resumed. For more than 6 months, though, Chad refused. Then in May of 1992, he had a sudden change of heart. Chad even sent his mother, Beverly, to pick up Wendy because her multiple sclerosis had left her unable to drive. But Leon's feelings were, I didn't want Wendy going by herself because I didn't trust these people. And me and Chad didn't get along, and something inside me just felt like she shouldn't go by herself. So, by the time Beverly arrived to pick up Wendy, Leon convinced his sister Renee Krieger to accompany Wendy and Cynthia on the trip. He was quoted as saying, I kissed Wendy goodbye, they took off, and that's the last time I seen them. The 115-mile drive to Chad's home in Shamrock, Oklahoma took just over 2 hours. When the group arrived in town at about 1:15, they phoned Leon. Quoting him, the first time she called me that day was about 1-something to let me know that she was all right, end quote. And then Chad is quoted by saying, regarding the visitation, we sat there and visited, and she didn't even really play with Jonathan, which is the son. Her and Jonathan and Cynthia played for a while, but she mostly just sat there and drank coffee with me on the porch and talked, end quote. So, sounds like the visit was somewhat uneventful. Maybe she didn't play with Jonathan as much as Chad felt like she should have. I don't know what he was implying by that, but whatever. So around 4:15 p.m., it was time for Wendy to say goodbye to Jonathan. Wendy, Cynthia, Beverly, and Renee went back to the car for the drive back. So just to catch up people who maybe are getting a little confused right now, Wendy, the mother with multiple sclerosis, her first daughter, Cynthia, Beverly, which is the mother of Chad, and Renee, who is the sister of Leon, Wendy's new husband. They all went back to the car for the drive back. And in addition to that, they were joined by, for whatever reason, Chad's grandmother, Ida Pruitt. Before leaving Shamrock, Wendy called Leon again. Quote, at about 4:30, she called me to let me know how her visit went. She said Beverly was in a hurry, so she had to get off the phone. That's the last time I talked to her, end quote. Phone records indicate that Wendy did in fact call Leon at 4:42 p.m., but virtually everything else about that afternoon has been tainted by suspicion. The last people known to have seen Wendy and her companions alive were Beverly and Ida Pruitt, Chad's mother and grandmother. So, of course, already you have the people on the side of the family who are already tainted in their beliefs that Wendy is shitty. So yeah. I'm sure their story isn't exactly going to be just the facts. Beverly declined to be interviewed for this broadcast, but the account that follows was given by Ida Pruitt, who did agree to be interviewed. The visit took place in Shamrock. After taking Wendy, Cynthia, and Renee to Oklahoma City, Beverly was to drive back to Cushing, where she was to meet Chad in a restaurant around 7 or 8, according to Ida. Wendy was unpleasant company from the very beginning. Quote, now all this time, all the way to town, she was just a griping and a bitching, and that's all she could do. So after
I remember that.
So after they got back to the car and everything, I just said, take me home. You got to put up with this, but I don't. So she brought me back home, and then she went on. So now,
I don't know if I buy that recollection of what happened.
I don't know if I buy
really
any
don't.
of this. So, okay, so now we have one less person in the car now. The grandmother, Ida, is gone. The one who did agree to appear on Unsolved Mysteries and recollect what happened is gone, after a key moment when she would have needed to be there to know what was going on. So she was no longer in the car. So now we just have Beverly, Renee, Wendy, and then daughter Cynthia. Ida says she was dropped off at around 5:15. She says later, Beverly told her the bickering continued for over half an hour. Quote, she said that by the time she got to Chandler, which is another city in Oklahoma, she had just about all she could stand, so she pulled into Walmart and told them to get out. I wanted to add in, get the fuck out, but I didn't. Beverly...
Yeah, this is the one where they're like, get out at the Walmart. Yeah.
Beverly has told police that she pulled into a shopping center in Chandler, 45 miles from Wendy's home. She then ordered Cynthia, Renee, and Wendy out of the car. Which is just like...
Yeah.
What?
Get out of the car!
Talk about,
Walmart!
Like, talk about dysfunction. Jesus. They never returned home. They never called.
Dumped them off at Walmart somewhere.
They never asked anyone for help. Okay, that's an important detail. So she kicks him out of the car. They never returned home. They never called. They never asked anyone for help.
First off, kicking somebody out of the car is just way far away from their destination, right?
45
Isn't
miles.
that what it is? 45 miles. I'll just figure it out. Get out of the car. It's like, well, first off, that's a dick move. Second, yeah, that doesn't sound like a made-up story at all.
you gotta consider the circumstances, though. Beverly...
They were griping and bitching. Get out of my car.
Beverly is Chad's mom. Beverly no longer has any connection to any of those people in her car at that point. Beverly does not give a shit about Wendy. Beverly certainly doesn't give a shit about Wendy's daughter from her first marriage. And Beverly,
I know, but...
And she doesn't give a shit about Renee, Leon's sister. She doesn't care about any of these people in the car. And if you know, Wendy could have said even the most mildest thing about Chad, and Chad's her baby. You gotta remember that. Yeah. Chad is her son.
Exactly.
So she's gonna be in his corner 120%.
Yeah.
And she, in her mind, is probably thinking, I went out of my way on this day to drive this bitch all the way over to my son's home in Shamrock to see his kid. And now she's gonna say anything negative about him. You can get out of my car.
She's the one that gave birth to that kid, right?
Yeah, but that don't matter to her, to the mom, the grandma though. That don't matter to her. So Beverly,
it seems like she's a total raging bitch, if you ask me. And I guess I just try to look at the good in humanity, and I still am shocked by how inhuman people can be. And this is definitely a very inhuman kind of thing to do. Oh, just get out of my car and stay in the Walmart parking lot. Yeah, that's safe. It's gonna happen to them.
So after
and like I said earlier, that doesn't sound made up at all. Maybe you're smoking some of the drugs that your the same drugs that your beloved son is toking and smoking.
So after all this happened with the Walmart incident, Leon says in this interview, around 8 o'clock that night, I thought they should be home by now. At midnight that night, I said, this has gone too far. I got to call police. And I did.
Yeah.
And they came out and took a brief description of everything. Now it switches over to Agent Jackie Johnson for the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. And she said, we did an aerial search which involved 4 and 5 airplanes searching 5 county areas, which involved several search teams, and nothing was found at that time. End quote. The disappearance became the talk of the town for days. With no other leads in the case, Beverly No's account of the afternoon events became the focus of extreme official scrutiny. Quote, at the time that Beverly No left Shamrock, Oklahoma, which was between 4:30 and 5 in the evening, she had agreed to meet her son Chad at a restaurant in Cushing at 7 that evening. It could not have been done in that small amount of time. Quoting again Agent Jackie Johnson. According to authorities, Beverly told Chad she'd meet him just 2 hours after she left Shamrock, even though the trip from Shamrock to Oklahoma City and back to Cushing would have taken 3 hours to drive. In addition, Beverly took the old 2-lane highway instead of the faster superhighway. Wendy's family is also disturbed about Wendy's failure to telephone from the shopping center. Quote, Wendy was very dependent upon Leon, and she had already called him twice that day during the trip. She would have immediately gone in and called her husband Leon. I feel that my daughter and my granddaughter and the sister-in-law were murdered that Friday night. I feel that Ida, Beverly, and Chad were all involved and that they pretty well had their plans laid out on what they were going to do when they made their phone call, when they made plans to see Jonathan. And I figured whoever got in that car, they were going to do what they had planned to do, end quote. That's Wendy's mother who said that. Beverly,
I agree with her wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Beverly, this is quoting Ida now, the grandmother on the other side of the family, the Chad's family. Beverly and I had nothing to do with their disappearances, and I know this. I don't care if they believe it or not, but I know it, end quote.
Defensive.
Much? So Chad chimes in. He says, there's no way me, my mother, my grandma could have killed him or shipped him off somewhere.
Yeah, you should have said no to killing people. How about that and taking drugs?
Chad, no. In spite of Chad's denials, 2 residents of Shamrock told authorities that they overheard him boasting that Chad said he had killed Wendy, Cynthia, and Renee, and that no one would find their bodies. And then old Chatter comes in again, and he goes, maybe in one of my drunken stupors I might have said, oh, yeah, I did it, but...
Why would anyone say that, even if they were drunk? The only reason why anyone would say that is if... what? You just some sick asshole who? Oh, no, that's a good joke. I'm gonna say I murdered somebody. That's not even funny.
Well, to finish his quote, he goes, "But there ain't no way in he wanted to say there ain't no way in hell, but I guess he was trying to censor himself for the interview. He goes, there ain't no way in ever that I could have done something like that. I'm not a violent person."
There ain't no way in ever.
Despite all the bitter incriminations between the two families, no evidence has come up about what could have happened. There have been no further sightings for more than a year.
Well,
and
I do have an update.
Motherfucker Mike has an update.
Yeah, so first off, the suspects in the case, Chadno remains a person of interest. 2 locals reported that he boasted of his responsibility for the deaths of both women and Jonathan, after which he disposed of them in a way which they would never be found. However, with additional, more concrete evidence, the police were unable to proceed with a case against him, and Ida Pruitt and Beverly No were once booked for arson to collect insurance money. So they had already been in jail before. The case is unresolved. Ida Pruitt died in September 2011 at 82 from cancer. On April 16th, 2013, the remains of Wendy, Cynthia, and Lisa were found buried 8 feet deep in an unmarked grave in Pawnee County, Oklahoma. A Ruger revolver, which appeared to be a .357, and a knife were also located amid the remains. DNA collected from Wendy's sister, Kimberly Aisha Hashimi, confirmed the identities of Wendy and Cynthia. A coroner declared that they were victims of homicide. Camp died from gunshot and sharp force injuries. Krieger died from gunshot wounds to the torso. And Brito died from homicidal violence of unspecified means. Grover Pruitt, Ida's son and Beverly's brother, was arrested on a $500,000 bail and was reduced to $50,000. Investigators believe more arrests are expected in this case. Grover pleaded not guilty, and his lawyer believes he is innocent. He is awaiting trial. Beverly was arrested on March 28, 2014, and was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder in association with the case. On January 20, 2015, she pleaded no contest to helping in carrying out the murders. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison and 15 years probation. He's just allergic to to this bullshit.
Yeah, I am.
She was sentenced to 15 years in prison and 15 years probation. Grover made statements that his mother, Ida Pruitt, and his sister, Beverly No, had murdered Wendy, Lisa, and Cynthia.
Damn, so the mother's intuition was right. Wendy's mother.
That fucking witch.
Oh, my God.
She did it.
That is so... Dude, the kid...
Watching that segment now, saying, I didn't do anything. Oh, she's just bitching and whining and moaning and blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, really? Like, how... I mean, there's no remorse there. I mean, I'm just looking at her mugshot, and she's got a smirk on her face.
Well, I mean, also the fact that Beverly declined to be interviewed, I mean, that was, that in itself was telling.
Yeah.
God, that how he, again.
Oh, it was actually Ida who said those things. Sorry, I'm wrong, but regardless, it's just she did not agree to be interviewed. So yeah, that's a red flag.
Again, I go back to the kid. Why'd you have? Poor Leon, dude. Leon loses his wife, he loses his sister, and he loses Cynthia, who, he would probably had grown God, man, like, what? People are so, like, that one thing, like, doing this podcast is, like, I enjoy doing it, but God, when we talk about these cases, it's just, I'm constantly reminded every week about how horrible people are, like, human beings. It's, like, really depressing sometimes.
It is depressing. It makes you realize how fragile human life is, too, and but
that's why I'm so skeptical of everybody. Like I don't like getting like too close to a lot of people because I'm just so skeptical of everybody's intentions and how people can turn two-faced like on the drop of a hat, and how people just they're looking out for themselves and their people and fuck anybody else, and there's really no compassion and taking into account other people's situations. It's all about me and mine, and fuck you and yours, and that was definitely the case with this situation. I mean, it's awful, especially to learn that they were murdered. I didn't know about that update before just now when you told me that, because I always try to save any information that Mike might know that I don't know. I save it for the podcast so I can get my reaction, and it's fucking awful, man. Like, I'm glad that they were caught at least. I mean, shit, it's not gonna bring them back, the other people.
Oh.
And Cynthia, she was a kid. She was a little kid. Why are you gonna do that to the little kid? I guess because she was a witness, but fuck, man, like, that's just awful. I mean, at least the kid from the previous segment we talked about, at least she's alive and has a chance. So that's the case of Wendy Camp. Very depressing. And
it's not going to get any happier from here on out, folks. So brace yourselves.
Strap on in. It doesn't get any better.
The next segment, the final segment, is one I handpicked because this one is one of the most chilling and one of the most eerie and one of the most memorable segments I think I've honestly seen, and I'm shocked this was not included on the box set in some way, shape, or form. This one is about the disappearance of Charles Sovereign Jr. Right from the beginning, it grabs you. It grabs you with a haunting video message from this man named Don Hoffman, who reveals that he had terminal cancer. An operable terminal cancer, a diagnosis he said was confirmed by 3 different doctors, and they actually show you this video.
Yeah, it's the real VHS video the dude took himself.
Then just hours after making the video, Don took his own life. An autopsy, though, found no trace of cancer. On the videotape, Don Hoffman said goodbye to 5 different family members, but there was no farewell to the heir of Hoffman's estate, his second wife, Terry. Now, this is where they start showing Terry. This image they have of her, it makes my blood curdle. This looks like she walked out of an insane asylum, just escaped from some asylum somewhere, and now she's on camera. Somebody's taking a photo. She's got this look on her face that is extremely devious.
She looks like a demon.
Yeah, she does. She looks like a demon, or she's possessed. Like, you look at this photo, like, it looks like evil.
It does. It's very frightening. She looks like almost like a female form of Joseph Goebbels.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now, and it's hard for me to look at. I'm like, ah.
But let's back up for a second. Her ex-husband or her late husband kills himself or commits suicide. They do an autopsy. They find no traces of cancer.
Yeah.
And he's killing himself on the video, or he's going to kill himself because he has cancer. But he doesn't have cancer. But that's only the beginning.
That's only the beginning, folks. Terry was a founder of a spiritual movement known as Conscious Development of Body, Mind, and Soul. So it's like the New Age group that you saw kind of in one of the first segments we talked about, the Karotic guy, where it was the what is that guy's name?
Kurt McFall.
Kurt McFall. But this time there's actual substantiated crap, like really bad shit going on here with this case. Unlike that one where it was just an assumption and there really wasn't a lot of proof. So Terry Hoffman is at the center of what some might call a circle of death.
Now,
the victims.
This is creepy. This next information is so creepy and bizarre to me.
Yeah, it is to me. When I first saw this, I got chills. Like I got goosebumps. This circle of death includes Mary Levinson, drug overdose. David and Glenda Goodman, shot to death, probable double suicide. Jill Bounds, beaten to death. Sandy Cleaver, drove off a cliff in broad daylight. Sandy's 14-year-old daughter, Devereux, drowned. I mean, the one drove off a cliff in broad daylight. Like, that one stood out to me because I was like,
are all these people possessed?
Like, how did they do this? Like, I mean, are they possessed? Were they mind controlled? Is there some voodoo bullshit going on here? I mean, that's really terrifying because I'm like, this doesn't sound like this is real. It doesn't. It sounds like it's a movie or something. And there's somebody who's like getting revenge with some spiritual means or something with a voodoo doll. But it's real. 11 untimely deaths. 11 people with a direct or indirect link to Terry Hoffman. Now some believe a 12th name should be added to this list. Charles Southern Jr., a respected English professor. Southern mysteriously disappeared, and his family now believes it may be no coincidence that he was a disciple of Terry Hoffman. Peace, harmony, and enlightenment. Hoffman offered all of this and more to Charles Southern and the others who joined her group, Conscious Development. Peter Muth was a former member who belonged to Hoffman's sect for more than a decade, and he's quoted here. Part of the belief system Terry taught us was that death was really just another state of consciousness. It wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't anything to fear. We also learned that the dark forces out in the universe had a name. They were the Black Lords, Black Overlords. They worked for Satan. The group we worked with was the White Brotherhood, who were good, benevolent characters. They were on God's side. The good guys. I'm like the White Brotherhood. Like, yeah, that doesn't sound like something else.
Give me a moment, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't sound like something else at all, the White Brotherhood. Anyway, when she mentioned like the Dark Lords, I'm like, oh, the Dark Overlord, like from Howard the Duck.
Are we playing World of Warcraft now, or
is somebody a fan of Howard the Duck? In Chicago, Charles joined a local branch of Conscious Development. Charles was assistant chairman of the English department at a local junior college. And what's kind of crazy about this segment is I watched this soon after I watched Doctor Strange, which is the kind of saying, oh, we're fighting evil. And it was like, oh, but like, I think she actually is evil. So it was like evil just letting in more evil under the guise of being good. I mean, you can't look at that photo and be like, yeah, that's a nice lady.
I mean, people say that I have a resting bitch face. She has a resting demon face.
Yeah. So Charles joined in, and he said joining Hoffman's group was his most recent foray in his ongoing search for spiritual truth, an odyssey that had taken him to India and Africa. Charles rose quickly in Hoffman's organization, and he was soon teaching classes and leading meditation sessions. Eventually, he was invited to Terry Hoffman's home in Dallas. By then, Terry Hoffman had begun to portray herself as a target of attack by the so-called Black Lords. During special meditation sessions, Hoffman exhorted her trusted inner circle to erect a psychic shield around her. Peter Muth says he saw Charles at one of these meetings. Now, her inner group for fighting the battles lives in a kind of constant state of fear, because we're always under attack from black magicians who could supposedly kill us, who could drive us insane. Now, that point makes me think of, oh, look at all these people who died, who knew her.
Right.
Maybe she's a black magician.
She got in their head so much that, you know, much like Scientology, there's kind of this like mind a very slow mind control and mind manipulation process that goes on until they finally have you believing that the reason why all you bad feelings that you have in you are coming from thetans or aliens, that bad thetans that live inside of you that are causing these bad feelings. And, you know, some people get to the point to where they're just driven crazy by it. Like, there's these things inside me, get them out, you know, like L. Ron Hubbard at one point wanted basically a machine that would just blow him away because he felt like he couldn't get all the thetans out of his body. He felt like there were just a few more in there that wouldn't get out. And it's just like, what kind of schizophrenic shit is going on in your mind to where you could even think that that's anywhere near a fucking possibility of something that could really, truly, factually be going on? And it's the same thing with this. It's just a variation on a theme of craziness and control.
Yeah. So as the years went by, you saw people in your group actually start to show signs of this strain, show signs of mental and emotional problems. According to his sister Cheryl, Charles was one of those who apparently collapsed under the pressure. We found Charles wandering on the street carrying a newspaper stating, "I live for art." We got him in the car and we took him to Michael Reese Hospital for examination, stating that he might be suicidal. And he also seemed to be reciting something in a strange language over and over again. That sounds like a typical example of a breakdown, of a complete, total mental breakdown.
Well, musicians are pretty fucked up, and he did say he lives for art, so I kind of feel him on that one.
After his release from the hospital, Charles stayed active in the group, but eventually became disillusioned with Hoffman. As Christmas neared, he made plans for a trip to India. In the days before he was supposed to leave, his mother, Ingeborg Southern, got a feeling that something was very wrong. I told him that I was disturbed, and I felt that I should come to Chicago. And he said, "No, you don't need to come to Chicago because I'm perfectly all right, and I will be leaving for India in 3 days." So he assured me that everything was all right. And with that assurance, I didn't go. That was the last time she spoke to her son. After 2 weeks and no word from their son, Charles' father became worried, and he's quoted here. "We, of course, wondered why we didn't hear from him, but he had traveled so much and so often to many parts of the world, I wasn't overly concerned until he was overdue."
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt right now, man. I just got a text from my mom. I am now an uncle. The baby was born, and she just sent me a picture of my brother's wife holding my
that's wonderful.
My niece. Yeah, that's incredible. And she is hairy as a monster. Oh my god, she's like a monkey.
Like a Bigfoot, baby Bigfoot.
Holy shit! I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep this professional.
Well, hey, it's okay. You know, it's a pretty heavy episode. So
that's a nice little reprieve for you guys.
Yeah,
I'm pretty excited about that though.
So Charles' parents, they drove the 300 miles from Cincinnati, and when they broke into their son's house, a nagging concern for his well-being turned out to be outright fear. Placed on a ceremonial stool from Africa were Charles' winter dress hat and his coat, neatly folded inside out. Only later would his family learn that this was a Nigerian tribal symbol of death. I mean, just that alone is creepy. Somebody knew these symbols, knew all this stuff, and wanted somebody to see that.
Yeah, that's some voodoo shit right there. That's
So Charles' parents also discovered 2 barely legible notes, apparently his last will and testament. One said in part, "I came under a bad influence, and I was trying to fight it myself." Terry Hoffman was mentioned twice and named executor of his estate. There was also some drug that was found in a vial in one of his cupboards, drawers actually, and it was like some kind of anticoagulant or something. It was like some really bad shit.
Well, an anticoagulant isn't a bad drug. That's actually
no. I think it was actually something else. It was some really not.
It was some kind of like poison that had to be injected. You couldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't ingest it. It had to be.
Okay,
injected.
that's what I meant. You had to ingest it. You couldn't inject it.
Yeah.
Into your bloodstream. So that was and it was like the same stuff that the people used to make people into zombies in Africa.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it was very similar to that kind of stuff. And also, I think somebody else also died on, that was also covered on the show. They were died maybe by that drug being administered to them. So I mean, that was kind of
Mike. You
well.
just said they were dyed. What color were they dyed in, Mike?
Oh, damn it. Fuck. I'm not perfect. Thanks for...
I'm not a perfect person. Sorry.
No, I'm not. Because I'm a creep. But anyway, they died.
Welcome to die.
So anyway... I'm trying to get back on track.
This segment, if it wasn't for the murders, I would almost consider this a fraud segment because she magically like all these people magically named this cunt as the executress of their estates.
Over a 12-year period, 2 of Hoffman's 4 husbands, her only son, 6 followers, and 2 people related to or employed by a follower came to an unnatural end. Causes of death: 1 murder, 4 fatal accidents, and 6 suicides. And over half of these cases, Hoffman was named heir or beneficiary. She was designated to receive over $500,000 in cash, plus thousands more in real estate, fine art, and jewelry. But authorities may have not directly linked her to any of the deaths. I don't know why not. It's like a glowing, bright, blinking sign with an arrow. She's involved, at least.
They probably want to.
Did it.
They're probably like chomping at the bit to like link this bitch, but they don't have that definitive smoking gun.
Maybe they're so fucking creeped out by this case, they don't want to get involved. Yeah, like, I don't want to die in some crazy weird suicide. I don't want that to happen.
That could very well be true.
Charles Severn is still missing. He is 6 foot 2 inches tall. He weighs 180 pounds, and he may have a full beard. Sadly, his mother passed away in 2015 at the age of 94. Terry Hoffman is yet to be found accountable for these deaths. Now, according to the Unsolved, what is it? It's this message board that talks about unsolved mysteries, sitcoms, something. They were kind of saying that she has her own website. I think they were insinuating that she might be dead now. I don't know for sure though. This case though, it does seem like it's not going to be resolved, and I don't think Charles Severn is still alive.
No, I don't think so. And a lot of times with this show, because it's so old, they might not be alive just because they died of old age.
Yeah.
Like, that's the shitty part, It's like you can't even see, like, justice come to these people, that deserve it.
Yeah. But also, yeah, I mean, this case is a real standout. It definitely does stick out from a lot of the other missing persons cases because it's got the fraud element, so that alone is interesting. But then you got this circle of death thing. And the creepy photo, and then just the whole circumstances behind these people's disappearance and their deaths. I mean, 1 murder, 4 fatal accidents, and 6 suicides. And all these people were related to her and knew her in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's circumstantial, but it's worth an investigation. Like I said, they probably want to bring her up on all these charges, but they just simply can't right now because they just don't have that.
And then you have the thing of the unexplained thing. Maybe she actually does have these like evil powers.
Yeah, no, I highly doubt that.
I highly doubt it too, but I think she might have found a way to manipulate those people. And because of this constant talking about these dark forces and all of that and how they're affecting them, and these are very gullible and easily molded individuals. I think that might have played into a lot of these people's unnatural deaths. Is the all
right,
this
because like as I mentioned before, I think with the decline
going on in their heads.
These people who join cults, they're searching for something. So they're open to suggestion. They're open to being manipulated. They have left their minds wide open to be tampered with by whoever wants to come in there and make the most compelling case. And as they said in the segment, Charles Southern felt the power in this group. He felt something, whether it was coming from a good place or a bad place. Quote, he didn't care. He just felt something, and that meant something to him. And so these people are just kind of like leave themselves wide open to be messed with and tampered with in this way, and obviously it worked, you know. And at that same time, the fraud part kicks in, and they're able to take advantage of them financially in any other kind of way. So these are really some of the worst people. I mean, they're not murderers per se, but they are right up there, or they're right down there in hell with the murderers, because they use a different form of fuckery. I mean, at least the murders are straight up, you know, like they come to you and shoot you or bat you over the head with something. But these people are almost more evil because they like play on your emotions and they make you feel like they can help you, when really all they want to do is bleed you dry, and they could care less if you live or die. And
exactly.
In this case, she would probably prefer it if they died.
Yeah. She might have planted that in their heads somehow, some way. Now, apparently by some people on the Unsolved More website, some people are commenting. She apparently, I think she did pass away. They're saying that she passed away in November of 2015. But this is a status that was on the 31st of October, Halloween. And this person says, Terry Hoffman is still up to her old tricks. A very good friend of mine's mother in the last month tried to commit suicide for the second time in the last several years. She's been under Hoffman's influence for decades. Terry has her convinced the Dark Lords are causing her unbearable pain, and she lives up in the Northwest. And Hoffman is still in Dallas, and from that far away, she can get people to try to kill themselves.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Well, anyway, we're gonna have to wrap this up a little. Well, this is probably not on the short side, but I have to go. I have to go see my new niece, fresh out of my brother's
good. It's
vagina.
Perfect timing too, because that'll put a smile on your face and keep your mind off of this evil bitch with the devil eyes.
Yeah, you know, and hopefully I've never been able to really care for a child before in my life, because I've never been close enough to anyone who had a newborn where I could actually feel comfortable holding it and all that. So I'm curious to see how this is going to turn out. But
I swear to God, when I was seeing the picture of Terry Hoffman and her eyes when they zoomed in on it, I thought lightning, was going to shoot out of them, like in Ghostbusters 2, when the Vigo painting starts shooting lightning out.
They could have. Oh, my dogs are. Okay, this is just an omen that I need to end this now. You can find me and Mike on YouTube for more fun bonus content. I'll have a Canadian taste testing food coming up very shortly. Thanks.
Once I get done with season 1, stay tuned on my channel, because I will do a video where I'm technically reviewing season 1 Unsolved Mysteries from Amazon Prime. So be on the lookout for that. I just haven't finished season 1 yet.
You can find me at youtube.com/dancingwithghosts. That's I'm not going to spell it out. I don't feel like it. And you can find Mike at youtube.com/OCP Communications. Like I said, I got a Canadian taste testing food coming up. Thanks in part to Morgan, one of our lovely fans. Morgan, you the best, never change. And check out Mike's channel. He's got a bunch of entertaining stuff on there. And I like to watch Mike's videos when I'm like doing other stuff, so I can just kind of listen to the audio. It's very much in that podcasty kind of format, so it's definitely a fun thing to listen to. Anyway, everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Sorry for the delays in the business, but next week should return back to normal, hopefully. And toodaloo.
See ya.